Alright everyone, what could be the first of a series of very dark days for our republic unfortunately now has begun. 42 minutes ago roughly, assuming that my computer time is correct, and it's usually not correct, so it could be an hour and 42 minutes, or it could be that it's 18 minutes out at the moment when I'm recording this. Of course, the Manhattan case against Donald Trump, Alvin Bragg's persecution of Trump, the very first legal case of that type brought up against a former president, will begin today. They're going to begin their trial. If the jury is wise, and this is a pitch to literally everyone who could be part of the Manhattan jury pool convened to oversee this case, you will find Donald Trump not guilty. Even if you don't like him. Even if you think he's guilty, actually, you can use jury nullification. Just don't tell anybody that I told you about that. Here's why. It's not about Donald Trump. That's the thing is, they're trying to make it singularly about Trump because of TDS mainly, but only partly, because they're afraid that he'll be reelected and break the toys. They're trying to make it singularly about that, and technically in the legal sense it is. Of course, it's a trial against one specific individual. But it's much wider than that. The implications for this trial are enormous. The problem is that if Trump is found guilty, regardless of evidence, regardless of actual guilt, etc., artificially upgraded misdemeanors, the fact that there's no real reason to believe that it was anything other than, in this hush money case, him paying his lawyer normally. It doesn't matter where the money went thereafter. It's not necessarily fraud at all. The problem is that if you can find a former president guilty of a felony crime in a district court, then you can do that to any other potential former president of the United States. What you're going to do is end up with a situation where any incoming administration can use lower-level prosecutors at the municipal or state level to persecute people who had been in office that they happen to ideologically disagree with. This is the case for Democrats, and by the way, hey, Democrats out there, it would also be the case for Republicans. It means that a Republican administration incoming could persecute an outgoing Democratic president. And here's the thing. Here's the real kicker. And people need to understand this. It is extremely important, and most people don't understand this. Differential enforcement is the worst part about the U.S. justice system. It's not about the actual penalties. It's not even about the actual law. It's about the differential enforcement of that law, the differential prosecution of people who violate it. Show me the man, I can goddamn show you the crime. You give me enough time, and you give me enough investigative power and enough clout, I can find you guilty of anything under the sun. I guarantee that every single person watching this video has committed multiple crimes within the statute of limitations. I know that I have. I've been publicly intoxicated, for example, among other things. You have committed crimes. It's only a matter of the will of the prosecution to persecute you. If you're under the radar, just the average Joe, probably doesn't happen. But if you're a public figure, there are always going to be people who want to knock you out. The people who run against you, the people who don't like you ideologically, etc., etc. Normally, for all of the rest of U.S. history, it's been understood that presidents are effectively immune for the things that they did when they were in office, and in other ways as well, retroactively even from before they were in office. It's generally understood that that's the case. The idea is that prosecuting the head of state, unless there's something specifically, like they kill someone, they kill them in cold blood on the street, which hasn't happened. I think a couple of presidents have killed people in duels, though. I think Andrew Jackson was fond of that, actually. You wouldn't want to fuck with him, too. A big, imposing man at the time. Used to get drunk with his buddies and break up the bar, quite literally, like they would start throwing furniture around, and got very, very rowdy. Good soldier, good commander, great commander-in-chief, actually. Definitely a top-tier president, but presidents have committed crimes, definitely, and the cat is trying to haze me here. But they aren't prosecuted like Nixon or Jackson, among others. They've committed crimes. The biggest crime they can commit is going against the Constitution, but that seems to happen with fair regularity at this point among most administrations, and nothing is done about it. I think that's the real crime here. If you find Donald Trump guilty, you are opening a can of worms that you do not want to open. It will destroy the republic. Maybe not immediately, but eventually it will cripple our republic. It will destroy it. Our republic won't be a republic anymore. You're effectively saying whatever political class happens to be in power in any given instance has limitless latitude to persecute even the highest level individuals on spurious charges, and there will always be charges. Of course Donald Trump committed crimes. I don't think that these specific charges that he's under in the Alvin Bragg case are meaningful. They're misdemeanors at most. They were artificially upgraded to felonies under the spurious notion that he was trying to cover up an additional crime. It's a stretch, okay? He probably did pay hush money, but I don't know that that's specifically illegal. I don't know how that amounts to felony business fraud. It's kind of a confusing case. It never should have been brought to fore anyway. But the fact is, if you find him guilty, you're effectively giving that power to every incoming administration, which means that people who have been on a debate stage, they've insulted each other, etc., there might be genuine bad blood between them. One of them wins, one of them loses, the incumbent loses, or, the outgoing president is gone, an incoming party comes. It means that they have limitless latitude to investigate them ad nauseum and then persecute them. Well, you're not going to get the best and brightest trying to enter the executive position now, are you? They're going to be too afraid to do so. Instead, you'll get a bunch of inter-party sleazebags getting that position because they know that they're not going to get investigated. Effectively, you'll have to suck the cock of the existing system in order to be the President of the United States, locking it in permanently. It's not Republicans, it's not Democrats, it'll simply be the uniparty. You will have transformed the United States into a one-party system. It won't matter what letter they have after their name. They'll have to be part of that core ideology. It'll be like China. It'll effectively be like China. Yeah, there are outsider parties within the Chinese Politburo, so to speak. Yes, they do exist. They have to toe the line, ideologically speaking. They're a token opposition, with a handful of meaningless secondary interests on which they deviate from the Communist Party line. We will become a one-party state. We've already semi-transformed into one already. For years and years, well, decades really, the Republicans and Democrats have fundamentally talked about the same things. There's no real deviation. There are a handful of mavericks that are tolerated as dissidents within the parties that have no real power. Unfortunately, the Republican Party is not the party of Rand Paul or Donald Trump. It is still a neoconservative movement. The Democratic Party is run by neoliberals. The far left has, token opposition capabilities that occasionally cause problems. What are you going to do when those leftoids end up getting persecuted by the federal government? Again, every person in Congress has probably committed a felony. And definitely every one of them has committed multiple misdemeanors in their lives, probably within the period of the statute of limitations, especially drug possession, and in sometimes drug sales, if Mitch McConnell's cocaine yacht is any indicator. Sexual crimes of various natures, etc., etc. But they don't get investigated. It's only when a person rocks the boat too much that they get investigated. And inevitably, you find evidence of a crime. Let you who is without sin cast the first stone, so to speak. Virtually all of you out there have committed a felony at some point in your life. Some of you did it unintentionally. Some of you don't even know that you committed a felony. But I guarantee that if I investigated you, and I had the power of a federal court, and I could subpoena literally anyone, and I could prosecute people for lying if they said that you didn't commit a crime, and I could do all of that, I guarantee that I could get you dead to rights on multiple charges. That's just the way that it is. They could do the same thing to me. If they can do it to the former chief executive, you no longer really have an executive office at all. The whole goal was to have a singular executive individual who reigns over that level of government and is effectively, under the separation of powers literally and further, effectively separate from the other machinations of government. The idea was to have somebody who had to have immunity because they're going to have access to top secret information and shit, so you probably don't want him in a jail cell now, do you? Plus, if you find Trump guilty, can I please ask the liberals out there, do you intend to imprison the nominee for a mainline political party, causing absolute political chaos in the country? By the way, probably handing him the election in the process. Where are you going to jail him? Are you going to have a rotating Secret Service bevy out in front of the cell, or are you going to put him under house arrest? And if you do, are you going to strip his right to communicate with the public? Are you going to deride his capability to use the internet or something, as though he can't just find a middleman? How do you even prosecute a former president? It doesn't even make sense when you really think about it. And the idea is that in the United States, it was deviated from other countries. You look at history, look at European history especially, but now it mainly in Latin America and Africa. You have a whole rotating cast of different overthrows and coups and court intrigue and all of this other bullshit that happens. And one ideological group displaces another with great chaos, and you end up with civil wars, and you end up with revolutions, and you end up with people getting guillotined and all of these other unpleasant things. And it happens for centuries and centuries and centuries. When the New World was incepted, an attempt was made to develop a system where that would not occur. Well, you're basically throwing out that New World system in favor of, hey, let's Europeanize the United States. That sounds like a good idea. Everything except for European abortion laws, of course. Now, that's a terrible idea. I mean, again, look at history. Read a couple of goddamn history books. I know that they didn't give you any in high school, probably, so most people are deficient unless they took the AP courses. I myself was always a lover of history. I find it fascinating. It's just that a lot of it is very unpleasant. Lots of wars and intrigue and revolutions and things like that of an unpleasant nature where lots of people die. The New World system so far has held together, generally speaking, but you're about to endanger it. My advice to the jury pool in Manhattan: study jury nullification. Understand that we are effectively attempting to regress back to an old world system. The old world system does not work. The founders of this country understood this. That's why they built a new system. If Donald Trump is found guilty, you're opening the ultimate political can of worms in which effectively persecution will be limitless. Yeah, and by the way, I'm not doing a black pill video here. I think that the charges are so spurious, like as not, even with a liberal jury pool, that they fall through. And I'm really, really hoping that they do. But it's still a dark day for our republic, because for the first time in a long time, there's the possibility our republic stops functioning. That's about all. Peace out.